Hello everyone, and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Luna stood at the edge of the Pacific Palisades Cemetery, where the late afternoon sun spilled orange across the headstones. The marble marker was still new, with a fine engraving of Lee Finnegan, beloved mother. The flowers Steffi had planted there 2 days before were already fading. Luna did not bring any. She had nothing left to give the lady who had reared her, lied to her, attempted to kill her, and then died to defend her. Nothing, just 6 words. She crouched, her fingers stroking the cool stone. Her voice was faint and broken, almost swallowed by the breeze off the ocean. I forgave you. I am free now. 6 words. That was all she could muster before the sob rose up her throat and threatened to sever her in half. She pushed her palm flat on the name one final time before standing, turning, and walking away without looking back. Luna had left Los Angeles before the sun set behind the hills. Bill Spencer found out about it the same way he found out about everything else that had recently broken his heart, through a security camera feed that he had no business having access to. He was in the Spencer jet, 38,000 feet above Nevada, nursing a Macallan 25 that he didn't like, when his phone rang. A silent alert from the Cliff House system, which he had never thought to deactivate after Poppy moved out. Front door camera. Motion detected. He opened the app with the same numbness he'd had since Lee's death. The timestamp indicated 1914. The girl on the television was dressed in black trousers and a black hoodie, with her hair tucked under a baseball cap. But he recognized the way she moved. If Luna were 80 years old and walked with a cane, he would recognize her movement pattern. She stood on the front step, her overnight bag slung over one shoulder, and gazed directly into the lens. It's not like she knew it was there. She seemed to be looking directly at him. Bill's breathing stopped. Luna slipped into her pocket and pulled out the diamond necklace he'd given her the night he thought they may be something more, before DNA testing, murder attempts, and jail bars ruined everything. She held it up to the camera for 3 full seconds before gently laying it on the welcome mat and stepping over it. Then she spoke. He noticed her lips move. He couldn't hear, but he recognized those lips more than his own name. 6 words. She turned, walked down the path, entered a waiting ride-sharing, and vanished. The Scotch glass slid from Bill's grasp and shattered on the cabin floor. He was crying even before the jet began its descent into Teterboro. He hadn't cried big, silent, shoulder-shaking sobs during Lee's funeral, Poppy's breakdown, or Luna's refusal to see him in a holding cell. The flight attendant hovered, offered tissues, more scotch, and volunteered to call someone. Bill only stared at the frozen frame of Luna's face on his phone, crying like a guy who had finally lost the one thing he couldn't live without. He arrived in New York at 4:17 a.m. Eastern and went right to the penthouse, where he hadn't slept in months. Did not turn on the lights. Just sat on the terrace in the December cold, watching the loop over and over. I forgive you. I'm free now. He read her lips till the sky turned a shade of weak coffee. Wyatt found him in morning, still dressed in the same clothing, his eyes puffy, and his phone battery dead. Dad? Wyatt's voice was cautious. What the hell happened? Bill was unable to speak at first. Just handed over the phone, let Wyatt plug it in, and see the 19-second video that had taken Bill's life for the second time in 6 months. Wyatt exhaled through his teeth. Jesus. She forgave her mother, Bill remarked. At the grave. I believe she later forgave me. Or said goodbye. Wyatt sat down hard in the freezing terrace chair. Where has she gone? I'm not sure. Bill's voice trembled again. I phoned the driver. Paid transportation to LAX. After that, nothing. She did not use any of the cards I gave her.
Didn't tell Poppy.
Didn't tell anyone. Wyatt massaged his face and said, just left. She's 24 years old, Dad. She's free to go. Bill laughed, a dreadful broken sound. Do you think I don't know that? You think I don't realize I'm the last person on the planet she'd want anything to do with after everything? He lowered his head into his hands. I placed her in a cage, Wyatt. I let my ego, guilt, and urge to play hero capture her. I told her who she was permitted to be. I told her she belonged to me the moment the test confirmed she was mine. And when it turned out she wasn't, he couldn't continue. Wyatt was quiet for a long time. Then, are you going to go after her? Bill raised his head. Tears had frozen on his cheeks. I don't have the right. That's not what I asked. Bill looked out at the city, which was waking up without him. No, he replied finally. I am not. If she desires freedom, I'll give it to her, even if it kills me. However, it was killing him. Everyone could see it. He headed back to Los Angeles. Are you okay? 3 days later, because Spencer Publications wouldn't run itself and Katie kept texting, until he wanted to hurl his phone in the Pacific. He nearly collapsed when he entered the Cliff House for the first time since Luna's incarceration. Her perfume was still there, faint yet persistent, like if she had merely gone out for coffee. The necklace sat on the kitchen island, where he'd relocated it from the mat, the diamonds reflecting the early light as if they were laughing at him. He left it there. Could not bring himself to touch it again. Poppy was sleeping at the Forrester guest house, shattered and medicated, and refused to say Luna's name. Finn and Steffi were tiptoeing around him, as if he were made of glass. Rich promised him a month off. Eric sent food. Hope sent a text to Uncle Bill saying, I am so sorry. Even Brooke gave him a look that was dangerously near to pity. He lasted for 6 days. On the 7th, he flew to Paris under the excuse of checking on the European Bureau. We stayed in the Ritz suite Luna had once danced around barefoot in when they snuck away for 48 hours the week before everything imploded. He sat on the balcony, sipped the same champagne they'd toasted with, and watched the Eiffel Tower shine, wondering if she hated him or, worse, didn't think about him at all. He returned home worse. Katie cornered him in the Forrester parking lot one afternoon when he arrived unexpectedly to beg Hope for extra work, anything to prevent his mind from replaying those 6 words. You look like hell, Bill. Thanks. I am serious. When was the last time you consumed something that did not come from a bottle? He shrugged. She grasped his arm. She departed, Bill. She made a choice. You don't deserve to die over it. He gazed down at her hand on his sleeve, as if it belonged to someone else. I've lost a daughter twice, Katie. Once, I thought she was mine, but she wasn't. She determined she never wanted to be again. I don't know how to recover. Katie's eyes welled up, but her voice remained calm. Don't come back as the same man. Be better. Be the man she could have forgiven in person if she had stayed. He gave her a long stare. Then he nodded once, got back into his car, and drove. He began with the necklace. I had it restored to a simple platinum locket, rather than something flashier. Inside, he kept the tiny photo of Lee holding infant Luna that Poppy had shown him. On the back, he had engraved the 6 words Luna had said at her tomb. I forgive you. I'm free now. He did not write his name on it. Did not leave a note. Just had it delivered to Poppy with orders to keep it until Luna returned for her belongings. If she ever does. Then he went to work. He sold his yacht. Half of the revenues were sent to an organization for children of incarcerated parents named Luna, with no publicity. I took the other half and established a scholarship at FIDM for children who had aged out of foster care. Again, no fanfare. He did not require credit. He needed penance. He arrived at Liam's house on a random Tuesday with a toolbox and repaired the leaky kitchen sink Hope had been fussing about for months. They stayed for dinner. Lowell beat him at Mario Kart without cheating once. He called Wyatt every day, even though Wyatt was annoyed by it. He began running again. Every morning, he walks 5 kilometers along the shore, past the site where he and Luna would watch the sunrise when she couldn't sleep. He never stopped there again. He kept running until his lungs burned, and all he could think about was the rhythm of his feet. 6 months passed. One morning in June, his helper activated the intercom. Mr. Spencer? There is a package for you. No return address. He almost told her to return it. He'd been getting a lot of anonymous mail lately, mostly hate mail from folks who still thought Luna was a murderer and Forrester loyalists who were still bitter over old conflicts. He was exhausted. But something prompted him to say, bring it in. It was little, brown paper tied with twine. His name was scrawled in handwriting, which stopped his heartbeat. He opened it with shaky fingers. Inside was the locket, the one he had mailed to Poppy. A second charm, a small silver plane, was now hanging from the chain. A note, folded once. I am still free, but I preserve the photo of Mom. Thank you for letting me leave. I believe I am ready to forgive you in person. If you still want it. Bill sat down firmly in his chair. This time, the tears flowed quickly, but they were different. Lighter somehow. He did not call anyone. I did not text. He just took his keys and walked off, with no driver, helicopter, or Spencer jet. He followed surface streets all the way to the Cliff residence. The necklace from the kitchen island was still present. He picked it up for the first time in 6 months, wrapped it around his own neck like an idiot, and sat on the balcony, overlooking the ocean. He heard the gate open just as the sun was lowering. Luna stood there in ripped jeans and an oversized UCLA sweatshirt, hair longer, eyes older, and holding the same overnight bag she had left with. She smiled, little, sad, and genuine, as she examined the necklace against his throat. Hi, Dad. Only 2 words this time. Bill could not speak at all. She crossed the gap gently, as if he would be startled, and came to a halt a foot away. I went to Bali, she explained. Then Lisbon. Then New York for a bit. I created a capsule collection with a new name. It sold out in 6 hours. She laughed nervously. I utilized the money to pay for the remainder of my degree online. I'm graduating in August. He discovered his voice. I'm proud of you. I know. She reached out, her fingers caressing the diamonds on his neck. You look. I am trying. She bit her lip. I was very irritated. For so long. At Mom. Look at you. At myself. I assumed that if I just disappeared, the fury would follow. But it followed me everywhere. She looked up, her eyes bright. I don't want to be angry anymore. Bill's voice was raw. I don't deserve. Let me finish. She took a breath. I forgave you. Completely. And I won't be free if I keep running away from the people who love me. Even if they are flawed. Even when they wound me. Especially then. He uttered a sound that was half laugh, half sob. She stepped into his arms. He hugged her as if she were made of glass, and the only solid thing left in his universe. After a long while, she drew back slightly to look at him. Could you take me to dinner? She inquired. No yacht. There is no private room. Simple cuisine for everyday consumption. Maybe tacos from the truck where we used to go? Bill laughed, wet and incredulous. I can do tacos. They strolled down the path together, her suitcase left by the door because she wouldn't be leaving tonight. The ocean behind them painted the sky purple and gold, and the Cliff home felt less empty than it had in a year. Luna cast a sideways glance at him as they approached the gate. Hey, Dad. Yeah, baby? She smiled, the first full one he'd seen from her in ages. 6 words wasn't enough the last time. He waited. She took his hand. Let's start over. Hello, I'm Luna. I think you're my father and I've missed you. Bill clutched her fingers so firmly that he was terrified he would break them. Hi, Luna, he said quietly. I missed you more than you'll ever know. And for the first time in a long time, both of them believed that tomorrow could be better than today. Luna had rehearsed the 6 words in her head numerous times, mumbling them silently as she drove through the hazy Los Angeles morning, trying not to choke on the anguish that rose in her throat every time she imagined saying them aloud. It was strange, almost surreal, that she would speak to a gravestone rather than the lady whose hands had once brushed her hair away from her eyes and whose voice had previously resonated through their tiny apartment with warmth even on the most difficult days. However, loss has a way of warping reality and bending memories such that they stabbed as deeply as they had comforted. She parked the car a long walk away from the cemetery gates, not because she was afraid of being seen. No one anticipated her today, and no one knew she had planned this, but because she needed time to gather whatever strength she still had. The air was chilly, with the aroma of dew and newly cut grass, in contrast to the merciless sun that had pounded down on her all week. She slid her hands into her jacket pockets, shivering slightly as she moved. She convinced herself it was just the cold, despite knowing better. The cemetery was silent, but not lonely. Rather, it felt weighty. It hung over her as she took the small path to the familiar location she had avoided for far too long. She paused as she approached the small area of land she had once visited every week, before life had entangled her in unforeseen obligations, and fear and bewilderment had forced her to abandon even her most important duties. The headstone looked the same, clean, modest, and soft. She knelt gently, brushing a small layer of dust off the etched letters with her sleeve. "Hi, Mom," she said quietly, the words wavering in the air. For a minute, she was unable to speak. The silence squeezed against her chest, simultaneously suffocating and warming. She took a trembling breath, closed her eyes, and rested her fingers on the cool stone. "I'm here," she replied gently. "I know it's been too long." The trees above rustled in response to the breeze. She nearly smiled. Her mother had always felt that the world listened, that the wind conveyed messages, and that silence spoke louder than any other sound. Luna had never shared that belief, but she found solace in it today. She dug into her purse for the tiny bouquet she had chosen that morning, white lilies, her mother's favorite. She delicately placed them at the foot of the stone, smoothing out the delicate petals. "I remember," she said, almost to herself. "I still remember everything." Her mind strayed back to the previous weeks, the perplexity, the secrets revealed, the talks stopped short, the decisions she had never anticipated making. Everything appeared to have spiraled so rapidly and painfully that she wondered how she could still stand. But she had always been trained to stand, even in the face of loss. "I'm leaving," she finally announced, her voice shaking. "And before I go, I wanted to tell you something." She inhaled deeply, steadying herself. Her 6 words hung on the edge of her tongue, heavier than she intended. She'd practiced, sculpted, and tested them in every possible tone, painful, hopeful, and resigned. But here, in front of the person she loved the most, they sounded completely different.
Raw. Bare.
"True. I'm doing my best without you." Tears welled up in her eyes as she spoke. She clasped her palm to her lips as a small sob escaped. These 6 words were a confession, a plea, a promise, and a grief. They contained every failure she thought she had made, every success she wished her mother had seen, and every time she wanted to run for comfort but only found echoes. "I don't know if I'm doing it right," she said quietly. "I don't know if I ever did." She laid her face against the stone, allowing the coolness to calm the burning in her flesh. The world felt cruelly motionless, reminding her that she was alone in her sadness. But somewhere beneath the sorrow, she felt something soften, like forgiveness, or perhaps just understanding. When she finally pulled back, wiping her cheeks with the backs of her palms, she felt lighter in ways she couldn't articulate. She pressed her palm against the stone once again. "I'll come back," she said. "I promise," she said, knowing it wouldn't happen soon. She had a secret plan, one that involved slipping out of Los Angeles without saying anything to her Forrester friends, or even Bill. Especially not for Bill. She rose slowly, taking one last look at the monument before moving away. As she walked back toward the car, she felt the familiar ache of guilt, which sharpened every time she imagined his reaction when he realized she had left. He cared for her more sincerely than she had anticipated, and more intensely than she thought she deserved. And she knew that departing without explanation would hurt him. However, staying would just make matters worse. She drove out of the city just as the sun began to set behind the skyline, leaving the sky drenched in muted gold. She did not glance back. She could not. Hours later, Bill waited outside Luna's apartment door, fist poised to knock again, despite having previously tried twice. He grimaced and glanced at his phone. He received no answer to his text messages. No one answered his calls. It wasn't like her. She never went so long without responding, especially today. He had wanted to check on her, see how she was doing, and tell her she didn't have to deal with her loss alone.